The sound of splintering wood echoed through the empty school auditorium just seconds before the ceiling panel crashed onto the stage floor. Dust exploded into the air. Old stage lights swung violently above rows of cracked red seats, and somewhere in the darkness, a terrified voice screamed for everyone to get out. Standing beneath the trembling catwalk was a little girl clutching a script to her chest, frozen in fear while adults panicked around her. And then, through the chaos, a man in dusty work boots ran straight toward the collapsing stage without hesitation. His hands grabbed the child seconds before another section of wood shattered where she had been standing. By the time the noise stopped, the little girl was crying safely in his arms, while the drama teacher stared at him like she had just seen something impossible. Before we continue, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Stories, if you believe every story hides a lesson someone out there desperately needs to hear. The old theater at Westbridge Middle School had been dying for years. The curtains smelled of mildew, the paint peeled from the walls like old scars, and every winter the heating system groaned like it was begging to be put out of its misery. But for Elena Brooks, the school's exhausted drama teacher, the theater was still sacred ground. It was the only place where shy kids became brave, lonely kids found friends, and broken families sometimes forgot their problems for a few hours under warm stage lights. But this year was different. Budget cuts had gutted the arts department. The principal had already warned Elena that if ticket sales from the spring play failed, the drama program might disappear forever. She worked late every night sewing costumes by hand, repairing props with tape, and pretending not to notice the water stains spreading across the ceiling above the stage. That afternoon, while students rehearsed for the upcoming performance, Elena stood backstage staring at a repair estimate in her trembling hands. The maintenance company wanted nearly $12,000 to fix the damaged stage supports and unstable lighting rig. $12,000 the school simply did not have. She felt sick looking at the paper. Around her, children practiced lines with nervous excitement, completely unaware that the place they loved might not survive another month. That was when she noticed him again. He had been sitting quietly in the back row for almost every rehearsal that month. Tall, exhausted looking, early 40s maybe. Dark circles under tired eyes. Rough hands scarred from years of labor. He always wore faded flannel shirts or dusty gray work clothes, like he had come straight from a construction site. His daughter Lily was one of the lead performers in the play, and unlike the other parents who chatted loudly in the lobby, he stayed silent, watching every rehearsal with intense focus. Elena had barely spoken to him before. Parents came and went all the time, but there was something about him that felt heavy, like a man carrying invisible weight every second of the day. When rehearsal ended, Elena gathered enough courage to approach him. She apologized awkwardly for the condition of the theater and admitted repairs were impossible now. She tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Then she said the words that would stay with her forever. She told him they couldn't afford to pay anyone to fix the place anymore. For a moment, he said nothing. His eyes drifted upward toward the damaged beams above the stage, toward the flickering lights, toward the crumbling ceiling tiles threatening to fall at any moment. Elena expected him to nod politely and leave. Instead, he quietly asked when the students would be gone for the evening. That night, long after the school hallways emptied, Elena stayed in her office struggling through paperwork. Around midnight she heard metallic banging echoing through the auditorium. At first panic shot through her chest. She thought someone had broken in. But when she pushed open the theater doors, she froze. The man was there alone beneath the dim work lights. He had somehow brought tools, lumber, cables, and old construction equipment into the auditorium by himself. His sleeves were rolled up. Sweat covered his face. Music played softly from an old radio while he balanced dangerously high above the stage repairing broken supports with careful precision. Elena rushed forward, stunned, asking what he was doing. He simply answered that children shouldn't have to lose the one place that made them feel important. Over the next week, he returned every single night. After working 10-hour construction shifts across town, he would drive straight to the school without eating dinner. While the city slept, he repaired lighting rigs, reinforced collapsing beams, repainted cracked walls, and rebuilt parts of the stage floor with salvaged materials he somehow managed to collect from abandoned job sites. Sometimes Elena stayed late pretending to organize costumes just so she could watch him work. Little by little, she began noticing the details. The wedding ring he still wore despite the deep mark of grief in his eyes. The way he always checked his phone at exactly 8:17 p.m. before silently putting it away. The way exhaustion hit him when he thought nobody was looking. One rainy night, Elena finally asked him why he was doing all this for free. For several seconds, only the rain answered. Then, without looking at her, he admitted his wife used to love theater. Years ago, when cancer slowly took her strength, she spent months bringing their daughter Lily to school plays because it was the only thing that still made her smile. Before she died, she made him promise something. Never let their daughter grow up believing beautiful things disappear just because life gets hard. The words hit Elena like a punch to the chest. Suddenly every late night, every scar on his hands, every silent expression made sense. This wasn't charity to him. This was grief turned into something useful. A broken man trying desperately to keep one promise alive. As opening night approached, the theater transformed completely. Fresh paint glowed warmly under repaired lights. The stage no longer creaked with danger. Students gasped when they walked inside, unable to believe it was the same auditorium. Parents whispered in shock. Even the principal looked speechless. But nobody knew the full truth except Elena. Then opening night arrived. The auditorium filled beyond capacity. Families packed the seats. Children peeked nervously from backstage in bright costumes while the smell of makeup, dust, and old curtains filled the air. Elena stood alone behind the stage trying not to cry from relief. And then disaster struck. A sharp cracking sound thundered overhead during the second act. One of the old ceiling sections, hidden behind areas even he hadn't reached yet, suddenly gave way. Screams erupted across the theater. Children scattered backstage as debris crashed onto the stage floor. And in the center of it all stood Lily. Frozen, terrified. Before Elena could even move, her father launched himself forward through falling dust and splintering wood. He grabbed his daughter and shielded her with his own body as another section collapsed beside them. The audience watched in horror while stage lights swung violently overhead. When the dust finally settled, he slowly stood up holding Lily tightly against his chest. Blood trickled down the side of his forehead from a falling piece of metal, but he barely seemed to notice. Lily sobbed into his shoulder while he whispered something only she could hear. And in that moment, the entire auditorium rose to its feet. Not because of the play, not because of the repairs, but because everyone in that room suddenly understood what love actually looked like when nobody was watching. Weeks later, after inspections and emergency repairs, the school announced the drama department would officially remain open. Donations poured in from parents and local businesses after word spread about what happened that night. But Elena never forgot the image burned into her memory. A tired single father standing alone beneath broken stage lights, fixing a collapsing theater with bleeding hands because losing it would have broken his daughter's heart. Before the story ends, comment below and tell us, what's the most powerful promise someone ever kept for you? Months later, during the final rehearsal of summer theater camp, Elena found something tucked quietly beneath the front row seat where he always used to sit. It was an old folded photograph of his wife smiling beside a much younger Lily on this very stage years earlier. Written on the back in faded ink were only 6 words. Keep the beautiful things alive. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a second to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Stories. You never know who might need a reminder that even broken people can still build something beautiful for someone they love. And somewhere beyond the warm glow of the repaired stage lights, a little girl kept performing, because her father refused to let the darkness take the last beautiful thing her mother left behind.